these explorers found this giant underground structure that seems to be man-made. It is one of the most interesting sites.
What was just discovered in Russia is unlike anything the world has ever seen. Russian speleologist Artur Zhemukhov baffled archaeologists and scientists when his research led him to a massive underground tunnel that has remained hidden for thousands of years. Who could have constructed this colossal shaft? What secrets does it hold? Join us on this special episode as we reveal the underground structure Zhemukhov found that changed everything. A tight bunker in the mountains. The European powerhouse Russia has been one of the gatekeepers of history, integrating into the working experience of the glaciers that have spanned centuries. The world-leading nation with vast landscapes is home to several ancient structures and unbelievable monuments carved from the earth herself, with no logical explanation for their building operations. While integral parts of Russia have continued to uphold the creation of extraordinary inventions on the face of the earth, the local areas have not been left out. The very remote and rural region in the North Caucasus, in the Kabardino-Balkaria Republic of the Russian Federation, houses towering mountains and raw wilderness. It is like the hungry look of nature without a long-time trace of humans. It was a bloom waiting to be unveiled. Yet, it seemed everyone was blind until 2011 when Artur Zhemukhov, a Russian speleologist, the scientific study and exploration of caves, made a mind-blowing discovery in one of his adventures at the Khara-Hora mountain peak. He found a deep, narrow vertical shaft mysteriously buried in the earth. As he examined the shaft, he noticed it was made of parallel stone slabs that were so similar in size that he concluded they were artificially made. This thought meant that humans were inhabitants of Mountain Khara-Hora at this time in history. After concluding the once-upon-a-time existence of humans in the mountains, Artur decided to check what this shaft was all about with his team. Another day they came along, and Zhemukhov discovered that the walls were very straight and polished. There were hardly any rugged edges. He also noticed that these walls were 40 meters, or about 130 feet, deep into the mountains, and a large underground hall, about 36 meters high, or 118 feet. The straight walls of this shaft were carved from large prehistoric megalithic blocks, like the ones used to build the Pyramid of Khufu, Egypt. Strangely, they were fitted well at the right angle without minimal gaps. When you observe the even arrangement of the large stones on each other, you can imagine a magnificent picture of what was built. The arrangement of these stones looked like columns. By the time they explored the hall, the overall length of the shaft was about 100 meters or 350 feet. Zhemukhov and his team could not believe their eyes. The structure must have been constructed over decades, if not centuries. However, the question remained: who built a shaft in the middle of the Khara-Hora mountaintop, and why? Zhemukhov and his team decided to go further to explore the base of the structure. The climbers kept exploring till they covered another 100 meters, and they could not go further. The chambers were getting smaller and narrower, so the climbers had to stop their expedition. Another reason why they concluded the structure was man-made was the absence of any polished replica in their natural habitat across the world. No other structure had a colossal, straight, and polished wall. Someone or a group of people must have made it happen. They also noticed that the blocks were fixed together by what seemed like a man-made solution. The walls showed noticeable cracks, which was unusual. In any natural cave or structure, cracks in the walls depict life from the beginning. However, this underground structure was different. Zhemukhov and his team tried to crack the inventive possibility of the mysterious shaft, but they could not come up with anything concrete. How can gigantic blocks of walls stay glued to each other without cracks? What kind of technology was used for the construction of the underground shaft in Khara-Hora mountain? This unbelievable structure found in the mountains was good research, one that many cave and mountain explorers and scientists were willing to check out. Another prominent mystery enthusiast who carried out expeditions on shafts was Vadim Chernobrov, who was the head of the Cosmic Poist, an organization that researched different anomalies in Russia. Along with his team, he partnered with Artur Zhemukhov, and they went into the shaft again, hoping to find something juicy they had missed in previous expeditions. They also starred in a discovery documentary on Russian TV. Significant portions of their expeditions were filmed and broadcast. When both experts explored the shaft again, they were able to reveal so much more. Chernobrov mapped out a more accurate structure of the shaft, properly measuring each dimension that was covered, from the narrow passage to the underground hall. With his accurate dimensions, modern technology was able to garner a 3D illustration of the shaft, exposing a never-seen-before cave. The expert explorers also concluded that there may be hidden chambers and passages underground, as they could not get to the end of the shaft. Who knows what else may be hidden underground? Crazy theories of Khara-Hora possibilities. While the mysterious creation of these magnificent structures is applauded, you can't help but wonder why they were created. Why was a huge shaft created in the middle of a remote mountain? Many theories about the crazy invention started springing up. Every scientist wanted to have an opinion. After exploring the cave, Chernobrov had his theory. He understood the structure was artificial, so he had to get into the head of whoever created it. He needed to understand what they were thinking about. Since Chernobrov has been in the shaft, he canceled out the possibility of creation for human consumption. This means the structure was not created to house any humans during war or significant human activity, because the chambers were narrow and would probably not contain people of substantial sizes. Even a child may not squeeze through properly. There were also several tiny closets where the adult hands could not fit. If you had also pointed out the torchlight, there is a possibility that the rays would not reach the bottom. With these clues, Chernobrov concluded that the structure might have been for a technological rather than a human purpose. Maybe it was the site of a vast experiment. Chernobrov also compared his adventure to the Pyramid of Khufu, which was a little bit similar to the Khara-Hora structure in Russia. What did both megalithic structures have in common? The creation of the passages was not for human transportation. They were too narrow for the comfortable movement of people. The passages in both structures also led to mysterious chambers deep underground. What would someone be doing 100 meters deep in the mountain? Chernobrov could not exactly decipher what these structures were used for, but he was very sure they were not for human consumption. With the little information he gathered from his expedition, Vadim could only speculate, suggesting that it could have been a type of plant part of an advanced ancient factory or an ancient resonator. While Vadim's suggestions seemed logical, they could also be far from accurate. After continuous study, Vadim also suggested that the underground hall was used to house a device used for cosmic research, or even an ancient energy generator. Other scientists started throwing suggestions, of which some were almost impossible or outright ridiculous. Some believed the underground structure in Khara-Hora was the remains of a long-lost pyramid that once stood on the mountain's surface. They suggested that over centuries, natural occurrences and climate change must have restructured the landscape of the mountains. Other climbers who went inside the shaft concluded the monument was built for ventilation purposes. They had noticed that while they explored the underground hall, air was coming from the narrow chambers into the hall. They had proper ventilation even when they were more than 200 feet beneath the mountain. However, with all the conflicting theories, everyone who climbed into the shaft to check it out concluded that it was artificially created. But something else was missing. The head archaeologist, Zhemukhov, knew something that others did not. The strange truth, hidden in Zhemukhov research. Although on paper it is written that renowned Russian speleologist Artur Zhemukhov first discovered the underground shaft, it was already discovered decades ago. Zhemukhov did not just come across the shaft because he enjoyed playing around mountains and caves. He had been studying the possibility years before his discovery on paper. Zhemukhov had been studying the documentaries and technological hints left by the Nazi Germans and their operations during World War III. They eliminated a lot of people, and it had nothing to do with the bravery of their soldiers. Zhemukhov believed that the World War II nightmare of Adolf Hitler, along with other high-ranking German soldiers, was deeply involved in occultism. Hitler was quick to uphold the values of the Thule Society, a German occultist and Völkisch group founded in Munich shortly after World War I. He was also quick to enforce traces and beliefs of the ancient artisan traditions, which sparked the beginning of World War II, with the 1939 invasion of Poland. The ideology of Nazism was based upon the conception of the ancient Aryan race being a superior race, holding the highest position in the racial hierarchy, and that the Germanic peoples were the most racially pure existing peoples of Aryan stock. Heinrich Himmler, a senior ranking officer for Adolf Hitler, was smitten by the Aryan beliefs. He was an enforcer who oversaw all internal and external police and security forces. Due to his obsession with the Aryan beliefs and Nazi racial policies, Himmler created an organization dedicated to researching the occult practices of the Aryan believers. In a bid to validate and legitimize these ancient racial beliefs, Himmler sent his officials to explore the world in search of places where they could connect with those who have similar beliefs. These officials also searched for ancient underground structures believed to host mystical powers. While conducting his research, Zhemukhov realized that the Nazis either found the Khara-Hora structure or they were close to finding it. At the top of the mountain, he saw an inscription carved into the cave with the Nazi sign. It was like a confirmation that the Nazis had shown up before anybody. Another strange discovery of Zhemukhov while conducting environmental research revealed a larger ancient swastika carving carved into the hill. This was not a Nazi sign, so it had nothing to do with the Germans. Could it be the symbol of the ancient civilization that created the underground shaft? In his years of research, Zhemukhov studied ancient documents and traditions and followed the possibility of underground cities. This was why he became a speleologist. Maybe the Khara-Hora shaft was the remains of an underground city that was passed down from generation to generation. Zhemukhov concurred with his research. He believed there were several underground structures scattered in the mountains, and he vowed to uncover every one of them. But Zhemukhov did not live to fulfill his dream. He was hit by a car and passed away before he got the chance to take on another expedition. While scientists are not getting close to identifying anything close to the accurate purpose of the Khara-Hora underground shaft, this is not the only ancient megastructure in the domain of one of the world's powerhouses. If you think the mountain shaft was your best one yet, then you are in for a long ride. The ancient city of Arkham. In the summer of 1987, a team of archaeologists headed by Gennady Zdanovich was sent to examine the archaeological value of the valley at the confluence of the Bolshaya Karaganka and Utyaganka rivers in the south of Chelyabinsk Oblast, or the southern Ural region, where the construction of a reservoir had begun the previous autumn. They went with an open mind, hoping to find something significant enough for documentation. This was not the first time the team of archaeologists would be in that region, as they had already checked out some archaeological sites in the area and found nothing worthy of documentation or preservation. Just another day in the field that summer, two students who took part in the expedition, Alexander Voronkov and Alexander Ezril, informed the archaeologists about unusual embankments they had found in the steppe. Later, the team leader, Zdanovich, found the embankments. After the discovery, all efforts were made to rescue and preserve the site. The team could not believe their discovery. Archaim was nothing like they had ever seen before. It was a circular stronghold consisting of two concentric bastions made of adobe with timber frames and covered with unfired clay bricks. Within the circles, close to the bastions, 60 dwellings stood. The dwellings had hearts, cellars, wells, and metallurgical furnaces. They opened towards an inner circular street paved with wood. The street was lined by a covered drainage gutter with pits for water collection. At the center of the complex was a rectangular open space. The complex had 4 entrances, consisting of intricately constructed passages oriented towards the cardinal points. Many scientists gave their theories as to where this embankment originated from. Renowned historian Via Scherlman claimed that all the evidence suggested that the settlements had been built to a common plan, which is indicative of a society with a developed social structure and local leaders with high authority. The fortified settlement was dated back to the 16th century, and it is approximately 20,000 square meters. The settlement is surrounded by a 2-meter deep moat. There are 4 gates around the settlement, and the main one is the western one. The dwellings are between 1,100 and 180 square meters, or about 1,200 and 1,900 square feet in area. The dwellings of the outer ring were 39 or 40, with doors opening towards the circular street. The dwellings of the inner ring were numbered 27, arranged along the inner wall, with doors opening towards the central square, which was about 25 by 27 meters in area. Zdanovich estimates that approximately 1,500 to 2,500 people could have lived in Archaeum. Surrounding Archaeum's walls were arable fields, 130 to 140 meters by 45 meters, irrigated by a system of canals and ditches. Due to the struggle to rescue the site, Archaeum was declared a historical and geographical museum. While the Archaeum settlement is fascinating, how many times have you seen a tomb for dead people as big as a 2-story building? The City of the Dead. Just outside the small village of Dargavs is an ancient, eerie structure. It is a late medieval Ossetian necropolis called the City of the Dead. It comprises 99 different tombs and crypts. Why 99? Why not 100, you wonder? However, some of the crypts are said to date back to the 12th century. In a creepy addition to the already scary monument, a tower stands at the back of the burial complex, like one housing prison guards who are watching over the necropolis. The crypts have ridged, curved roofs that rise in a step-like fashion to a pointed peak at their center, and they are placed closely together on hills or mountainsides. The smaller crypts have flat sides at the front and back and curve inwards on the sides, while the very smallest have no roofs whatsoever. The crypts climb the mountainside in a row, with some of them built into the mountainside itself. The walls are made of stone blocks and mortared with most likely lime or clay lime. In the walls are square holes to place the dead bodies in the crypt. On the inside of the crypts, there is a pointed groin vault complex supporting the roof, though on the smaller ones, these are pointed barrel vaults. A crypt can be up to 2 stories high. The cemetery structure is believed to be the place where people who lived in the valley buried their loved ones along with their clothes and belongings. It was once believed that if anyone tried to get to the city, they would never get out alive. Another legend claimed that a mysterious plague had swept through Ossetia in the 18th century, and the clan had built these tombs as houses to take in any sick family member. These family members were provided with food, but not the freedom to move about until they passed away. People who did not have any remaining family members to bury them would just wait in the massive cemetery until their deaths. In the years following the strange epidemic that devastated the village, inhabitants who lived nearby villages decided to leave the valley and move to the plains so that the City of the Dead could be invaded by ghosts. Inside these tombs, some of the corpses are so well preserved that their flesh is still attached to their bones. On many of the corpses, there are clothes from different epochs, personal things, as well as posthumous gifts from their relatives. Now, the structure is a tourist attraction, and people come there if they want to encounter the peace of the afterlife. Away from the creepiness of the City of the Dead, archaeologists discovered another ancient cave said to have been occupied by humans of different times. The Denisova Cave. Located in Altai Krai, near the border with the Altai Republic, both in Russia, the Denisova Cave sits near the village of Chorny Anwy, a region thought to have been inhabited concurrently in the past by Neanderthals and by modern humans. The entrance to the cave is exposed to the southwestern and western parts of the foot of Mountain Sosnovaya as part of the Anwy Ridge. For some time, the cave remained uninhabited, and then for almost 300,000 years, it became home, first to animals and then to mankind. Denisovans, Neanderthals, and related hybrids may have inhabited the cave for extended periods, but perhaps not at the same time. The cave was first discovered in the 18th century by an old believer hermit, Dionysi, whom it was named after. To the old believers of nearby villages, he was a pastor, and they constantly visited him in his cave cell for blessing and advice. The Altai people call the cave Ayutash, which means bear rock. In their ancient legends, they remember that a powerful black shaman lived here and was able to turn into a huge bear. The fuss about the cave started when one of the leading international scientific journals, Nature, published the results of the genetic analysis of human fossils found in the cave. A fragment of the distal phalanx of the little finger of a 6 to 7-year-old girl in 2010. Analyzing first the mitochondrial and then the nuclear DNA from this bone sample showed that it belongs to a previously unknown fossil man, which was named Denisovan after the place where the anthropological remains were found. Since then, experts in archaeology, paleogenetics, paleoanthropology, geochronology, and other disciplines from the world's leading scientific centers have studied the cave. The Denisova Cave's cultural and chronological scale is the most complete and lasting in North and Central Asia. The cave deposits contain exceptional evidence of the continuity of human settlement in this area up to the 18th century. In studying the cave's cultural deposits, tens of thousands of artifacts from different cultural and chronological stages of the Paleolithic and subsequent historical eras were discovered. These included fragments of ancient ceramic vessels, bone and bronze products, numerous stone implements of an ancient man, and more. Archaeologists revealed that the human remains from the Denisova cave currently number more than 20 bones and separate teeth. Currently, Denisova Cave is in a satisfactory state of preservation. The cave consists of a system of short hook, sub-horizontal, and carefully structured galleries of different sizes. Continuous expert research from different discovery bodies has contributed to the overall stability of documentation, preservation, and understanding. Dolmens of the Caucasus. The distinct Caucasian dolmens represent the uniqueness of prehistory structures and their shocking superiority to certain modern structures. These dolmens were built with accurately dressed large stone blocks. The stones were shaped to be used in corners and curved to make a circle. While round holes are the most common, square ones have also been found. The megalithic structures were built during the early Bronze Age, from the middle of the 4th millennium BC to the end of the 2nd millennium BC. Since they were caved in a rock mass, a large roof slab covered the chamber, whilst an access portal was formed by projecting blocks from the side walls and the overhanging roof slab. In front of the facade is a court that usually extends out, creating an area where rituals are believed to have taken place. The court is usually outlined by large stone walls, sometimes over a meter high. It is in this area that Bronze and Iron Age pottery has been found, along with human remains, bronze tools, and ornaments made from silver, gold, or precious stones. Archaeologists do not know who built them, where the stones came from, or what their true purpose was, leading to much speculation in the scientific community. However, petrographic analysis of the dolmen rock suggests that the builders mainly used florogenic rock masses as their main construction material. This means the dolmens were formed at a time when the construction workers would carry these rocks from a quarry outcrop hundreds of meters away to the dolmen construction site. About 3,000 of these megalithic monuments are known in the Western Caucasus. The average weight of each structure is from 15 to 30 tons. Within most of the dolmen, the huge stone plates join each other precisely with specially made grooves. The joint places are so close in places that it is impossible to even slide a knife blade between the plates. In 2007, there was a decision to reconstruct this ancient structure from the stone plates of destroyed structures in Gelendzhik and carry out the processing and fitting with high-precision electric tools. With the help of modern technology and expert engineers, the builders were unable to achieve the same level of precision as the prehistoric builders. Due to the possible date of creation, an archaeologist who has devoted much of his life to studying the Caucasian dolmens suggested that the people of the time lived in mud huts, did not know iron or the pottery wheel, and cultivated land with hoes. But the question remains, how did they construct these megaliths? A legend claimed some dwarfs once settled in the area. They lived alongside giants who built stone dwellings for their feeble neighbors so that they could take shelter in bad weather. However, the giants were not repaid for their kindness. To tame the giants, the little people blinded them and gave them mind-altering herbs. The giants began to lose their minds and unleashed war and carnage, resulting in the mass extinction of both the dwarfs and the giants, with only the stone houses remaining. Archaeologists have put forward two main hypotheses regarding the purpose of the dolmens. The first is that they were places of tribal worship. The second is that they were burial places. During the excavation, Many of them contained burial sites of people who had lived during different historical periods. And next to them were various items that indicated belief in an afterlife. However, many researchers argue that the burials constitute secondary use and were not the original reason for their construction. Maybe the dolmens would be preserved long enough to unlock their secrets. Still, in the story of ancient civilizations, archaeologists found the remains of an underground city that fostered international trade. The underground city of Atil. The remains of Atil were located along the Volga Delta at the northwestern corner of the Caspian Sea. Following the defeat of the Khazars in the Second Arab-Khazar War, Atil became the capital of Khazaria. At its peak, the city was a major center of trade. It consisted of 3 parts separated by the Volga. The western part contained the administrative center of the city, with a courthouse and a large military garrison. The eastern part of the city was built later and acted as the commercial center of the atoll, and had many public baths and shops. Between them was an island on which stood the palaces of the Khazar Khagan and Bek. The island was connected to one of the other parts of the city by a pontoon bridge. The megacity dates back to the 10th century, when one half of the city was referred to as Atil, while the other was named Khazaran, according to Arab sources. Atil was a multi-ethnic and religiously diverse city, inhabited by Jews, Christians, Muslims, shamanists, and pagans, many of them traders from foreign countries. All of the religious groups had their places of worship in the city, and there were 7 judges appointed to settle disputes, about 2 Christian, 2 Jewish, and 2 Muslim judges, with a single judge for all of the shamanists and other pagans. It was a general center for free and fair communions. Atil managed the Khazar slave trade, in which slaves bought for export were transported from the Khazar Khaganate to either the Black Sea slave trade in the 7th century west via the Black Sea port of Kerch, or east from the capital of Atil via the Caspian Sea to Central Asia, and from there to slavery in the Abbasid Caliphate. However, the fair city did not last, as it was destroyed in the mid-11th century. Although the archaeologists knew that the still city existed, nobody knew the exact location. In 2006, Dmitry Vasilyev and his team believed they located the remnants of the lost city in the newly found 9th and 10th century layers at Samosdelka, including a triangular-shaped brick fortress and yurt-like huts. Samosdelka is in the Kamyziak district in the Volga Delta near the city of Astrakhan. They deduced their hypothesis from the things they found on the site. The fortress at Samosdelka, which had a triangular shape and was located in the 9th to 10th century layers, was made from limestone bricks. It is known from written sources that the Khazar king had a monopoly on brick buildings because he would not allow anyone else to create brick buildings. Bricks and brick fragments were found in all cultural layers except the lowest one, including many brick buildings in the Khazar-era layers. Vasilyev believed the fortress remains must have been the king's palace. Inside the Khazarian fortress at Samosdelka, in the 9th to 10th century layers, archaeologists found round huts that resembled Turkic yurts and yurt-like dwellings of the Khazar era. This fits in with the knowledge of Atil as a place where formerly nomadic families came to permanently settle for at least part of every year. Traces of a widespread fire were also found at Samosdelka in an Atil layer. The fire was probably set during the conquest of Atil by Kievan Rus's Prince Sviatoslav in the second half of the 1960s, an event recorded in the Russian Chronicle. Although there aren't many ancient sites in Russia or they have been hidden from global research, the Sintashta fortress was discovered as the beginning of warfare in Europe. The Sintashta fortress. Sintashta is an archaeological site situated in the steppe just east of the southern Ural Mountains. The settlement consisted of rectangular houses arranged in a circle 140 meters in diameter and surrounded by a timber-reinforced earthen wall with gate towers and a deep ditch on its exterior. The fortifications at Sintashta are similar. Sintashta settlements are also remarkable for the intensity of copper mining and bronze metallurgy carried out there, which is unusual for a steppe culture. The main culture of prehistoric Sintashta dwellers included advanced militarism and spiritual practices. According to archaeological findings, the Sintashta culture originated from the interaction of the 2 precursors, Poltavka culture and Abashevo culture, a probable eastward migration of peoples from the corded ware culture. These people thrived in warfare as they engaged in intertribal conflicts about who got the bulk of the Sintashta resources. This drove the construction of fortifications on an unprecedented scale and innovations in military technique, such as the invention of the war chariot. Increased competition between tribal groups may also explain the extravagant sacrifices seen in Sintashta burials, as rivals sought to outdo one another in acts of conspicuous consumption analogous to the North American potlatch tradition. Sintashta artifact types such as spearheads, trilobed arrowheads, chisels, and large shaft-hole axes were taken east. Many Sintashta graves are furnished with weapons. Higher status grave goods include chariots, as well as axes, mace heads, spearheads, and cheek pieces. Sintashta sites have produced finds of horn and bone, interpreted as furniture. Arrowheads are also found, made of stone or bone rather than metal. The Sintashta economy revolved around copper metallurgy. Copper ores from nearby mines were taken to Sintashta settlements to be processed into copper and arsenical bronze. Around 10% of graves, mostly adult males, contained artifacts related to bronze metallurgy. The earliest known chariots have been found in Sintashta burials, and the culture is considered a strong candidate for the origin of the technology, which spread throughout the Old World and played an important role in ancient warfare. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.